Hi, my name is Nikki Capron. I'm going to be doing my artist presentation on Carsten Holler. Just a quick warning, I don't know how to say his last name. I couldn't find a video of someone else saying it, so I'm just going to refer to him as Carsten throughout this presentation. So this is what Carsten looks like. He was born in 1961 in Belgium, and he currently lives and works in Sweden. He received a PhD from the University of Kiel in agricultural sciences, and he's really most well known for his installation art, and that's really what I'm going to be focusing on today in this presentation. He really began creating in the 1980s and began to become more well known in the 1990s. And he really encourages interaction from the viewer. He wants the viewer to consider how they perceive the world around them and how the decisions they make affect the world around them. He wants to question their perception of themselves and the people around them and the spaces they inhabit. He's also really interested in emotions and how humans portray and perceive emotions. And he's really interested in social constructs and why we adhere to some constructs so strictly. This first installation we're going to be looking at took place in London at the Hayward Gallery. We're going to be looking at two components of it, though there were many more. On the facade of the building on the outside, there are these two slides called the isomeric slides, wherein the viewer chooses one of the two slides. They slide down, and there's a plexiglass cover. So as you slide down, you get this beautiful view of the London cityscape. This is one of the times Carsten really calls into question decision-making, and he really encourages the viewer, honestly the participant at this point, to consider why they're making this decision and what would be happening if they had made a different decision and what the outcome of this decision is going to be. He really wants them to consider every component of why we have done the things that we have done. Inside the gallery is there's two doors labeled A and B. The viewer chooses one of them, and they're brought into these long hallways that's are reminiscent of air conditioning vents and ducts. They move and shift and slide side to side. It's a really disorienting experience from what I've heard. And it also calls into question decisions and decision making and why the viewer chose this hallway. Some reviewers have said it reminded them of being on Coney Island. It's almost like a terrifying roller coaster ride as you're in this tiny claustrophobic space that's being moved through no decision of your own. It's apparently quite terrifying, but also really interesting, according to a couple critics. Talking about the materials Carsten uses, he has no shortage of them. He's used the galvanized steel that we saw in the isomeric slides and the decision corridors. He's also used live animals. One of his installations was a pen of 12 reindeer to whom he fed psychoactive substances, which are also a recurring theme. The psychoactive substances, they recur throughout a lot of his art. He has used sensory deprivation tanks to have the viewer consider the world without sensation. He's used eyewear, like eyeglasses and mirrors, to change how the world is seen. I could sit here all day and just talk about all the materials he's used. He's used narcotics and pills. He's encouraged viewers to really partake in his art. So this installation, which is called Pill Clock, it's an ever-growing pile of red and white capsules, and a new red and white capsule is dropped every 3 seconds. This specific time interval was chosen because Carsten believes that's how long it takes to make an impression. And this is a really unique work because, again, it really calls into question the decisions that are made. Why would a person walk through or walk around this? Why would a person pick up this handful of pills but not that one? Why would someone take one and put it in their pocket and take it home? It also calls into question time and space. So this work will never look like this ever again. It is constantly being changed and morphed and evolved as more people experience it. Next, we're going to talk about the giant triple mushroom. So this is a giant replica of 3 different types of psychoactive mushrooms. It's a third of each of them, and they're smooshed together. These are beautiful sculptures. This is not the only one. There are many different giant triple mushrooms that Carsten has made. And by taking these different psychoactive substances and blowing them up into such a huge proportion, Carsten really wants his audience to question how we're looking at the world around us, how we are using the world around us to change our perception of that same world. I also love this project because I love mushrooms. I use them a lot in my own art. I think they're a really interesting way of examining life and death and decay, and death bringing new life. So I think by having them in such large sizes, Carsten wants the audience to question their own mortality, kind of a large Alice in Wonderland memento mori, if you will. But again, he really likes to use the motif of psychoactive substances, especially mushrooms, in his artwork. And again, he really uses that mind-changing substance to denote that we should be changing how we are perceiving the world around us and how we affect the world around us. Real quick, I want to bring up one of his photographs. He's most well known for his installation art, but I really think some of his other art should be acknowledged as well. His photography usually has shifting colors, and they usually have this feeling of disorientation. And I love this specific picture because it feels like a really universal experience. I feel like most people have been to a fair or a carnival, and in that time and space, our memory is shifting and changing of that time and space where the carnival was and took place. And I think this kind of uneasiness that it has to it, because the colors aren't quite right, the humans aren't quite human enough, their skin tones are off and odd. I think it adds to the sense of unease, and it, again, like his installations, really bring into question how we're perceiving the world around us. The next installation we're going to look at is Upside Down Mushroom Room. This was an installation of many large red and white mushrooms and toadstools hanging upside down from the ceiling. Some of them swing back and forth or spin and turn. And it's a beautiful, whimsical installation that again confronts how we're perceiving the world around us. This is completely opposite from how these things would be perceived in nature, small and right side up. But here, it's almost like they're observing us. We're under the microscope and these mushrooms are staring down at us. It's another challenge to the perception of the world around us. And it's fun. It seems fun and whimsical, but it also seems terrifying, as though we are no longer inspecting the world is now inspecting us. So the last one we're going to talk about today is called Decimal Clock. This installation is a large pink and white clock that counts 10 hours, 100 minutes, and 100 seconds, rather than 24 hours, 60 minutes, and 12 hours, 60 minutes, and 60 seconds. Pardon me. And I really enjoy this art. Carsten has referred to it as a way to question how we perceive time, as time is something relatively new in the grand scheme of things. It's completely arbitrary, these symbols we've assigned to try to make sense of the passage of time. And also, the way we count time here in America, the 12 hours, isn't how time is counted everywhere in the world. You know, our perception as a very Western society, we don't have our perceptions questioned very often. We're kind of we just believe that how we do it is normal, and it's good to question why we do things a certain way, and look at how other people do those same things, and see if we could change how we live and how we survive based on how some other people do it, because maybe their perspective is different and maybe better than ours. Again, Carsten is just really interested in how we perceive the world around us and how we interact and communicate with the world and with each other. And this quote I have by him on this slide, he's really interested in how people communicate and collaborate. And he really wants to visualize and perceive the concepts of life. That was just a bit of a paraphrase of that quote, but you can read the whole thing there. But I believe Carsten is such a wonderful artist. I believe his installations are beautiful and very thought-provoking. And I really hope to be able to see something of his in person one day.